It's coming up on tax time in the US, which means those of us who live here are making decisions about how we want to prepare our tax filings. Software can make this process easier for people who choose to do it themselves, but what if you have a question? Would you trust generative AI to give you the answer? Sharing personal information with AI is risky business, and asking a search engine like Google comes with its own problems. I'm Jennifer Strong, and this is Shift.
Now here on the steering column is a device called Auto Cruise. You simply set the speed you want.
Self-driving robo-taxis are already on the road in 2 U.S. cities.
As the disc rotates, a mirror reflects the light in the way that depends on how the signal was recorded.
This is the 100 terabyte I present to you Electro, the Moto Man.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans.
This episode, we meet a man behind H&R Block's generative AI tax assist.
Large language models are about conversations, right? Think about how to give this technology that purpose and motivation to have a conversation which is as organic as you want it to be with a human, but also have meaning and intention and direction to it. Hi, I'm Aditya Thadani. I'm Vice President of Technology with H&R Block. Lately, I've been working a lot on building AI technologies and how we can actually bring it to life for our clients and our tax pros. So one of the things that we've been working on for the last several months that we actually launched is this idea of when a consumer who wants to do their taxes on their own, they come and use our DIY software. Clients have doubts, questions about specifics of tax law, tax regulations, how it applies to them. And often what they would do is they would leave the software and go to Google or go someplace else to get those answers. And the idea here is, can we start to surface that information to our clients so that they can get the answers, the information they need to continue to do that. And the advantage we really have is this brain trust within the company. We have tax attorneys, enroll agents, people who have deep expertise in tax law and regulations and how it applies to real consumers. And to take all that expertise and being able to surface it so that the clients can actually interact with the technology and get the answers they need right there. If you just go to the internet, you find an answer, but did you get the most current information? Did you get the most complete information? Essentially, the clients are left to vet that information for themselves. Here, they have the benefit of actually getting information that's been vetted for them. The way this solution is set up right now is if you are in the main application doing your taxes, you're providing your data, we have very intentionally kept this technology almost like firewalled from that, right? Just because it's in the tax app, which has lots of sensitive data being provided by the client, we were very intentional about shielding all of that data, private data that the clients are providing from this tech for now. I believe that's actually the responsible thing to do at this stage. We want to make sure that if and when we actually share that data with this tech, we honor the privacy and trust expectations of the client. We use it in the way they would expect us to use it. We honor that. But also, we have all read about concerns about bias in this tech. The more personal data you have, there is a risk of the tech actually introducing its biases in using that data. If it knows more about your personal life, how is it going to use that in the way it infers and the way it recommends? So we have to be very careful about making sure that while it is helping you, it's using your information not in negative biases, if I could say that. The whole idea of knowing about your personal information is to take all that tax knowledge and say, what's the best thing, the right thing for Jennifer? If it were to attempt that, we want to make sure that it is making those inferences. It is not introducing its own bias in the process. I assume this about Jennifer, so I'm going to give her this guidance, but Catherine there is different, and I'm going to give her a different guidance. It's good when it is right. It's bad when it is biased. We partner very closely with Microsoft in this, Microsoft and OpenAI. So Microsoft, actually, we have had a long-standing relationship with them as a tech partner. We have actually collaborated with them on a lot of our digital transformation journey where we built our application platforms, data platforms in Azure. So it was a very close relationship, both in terms of engineering it, but also the idea of how to build in the right controls, because we all are concerned about how this technology comes to life on behalf of our users. Is it doing the right thing? Is it being responsible? Is it being ethical? And be sure that when we put it in front of our clients, the technology is going to behave in a reliable, predictable way. I think there is two aspects to kind of the progression of this technology, especially in this space, right? One is we refer to it in tech circles as the agentive aspect, right? Agentive aspect is instead of giving you information, it does things for you. It can take action. That's one aspect. But the other aspect of this also is that a Q&A structure presumes that you as a consumer and user are asking questions and the tech is answering questions for you, is providing information. But a real advisor relationship actually is more than answering questions, right? And that's another aspect of this technology that we are exploring is like, how do we build this to a point where it can do more than respond, can ask you to think about things you didn't ask for, right? And so both those aspects of this tech are still evolving. We are still kind of saying, okay, how do we, how can we, how should we, when should we, right? So all those aspects are evolving. It's going to be a progression. It's going to get better, more mature, but really more useful. That's where the magic is, right? It has to be more useful for you as a consumer, for you to say, I'll trust it. What you're looking at here is our DIY application where a consumer logs in and they want to do their taxes. So they come in and you can see the screen, then you can start to engage with the application, provide your data. But what you see on the right side is help, right? So we know people have questions, they want to do it, but they also recognize that there is some information they don't have or they're not sure about. They are not quite ready to delegate it out to someone else to say, you do it for me. They like the controls, but they need help. Be confident about how they're doing it, what they're doing, right? So that's really where the help is. So what you're seeing is sort of the traditional help that we have always provided. You could do a traditional search, look up information. It'll give you surface an article for what you asked about, and then you use that information. But what you see here is ask a question. And this is where generative AI-based solution comes into play. So I'll just take an example and I'll say, what would you like to know, Jennifer? Maybe you want to know you have some income as an Uber driver. How do I report my income? So what you're seeing here is it gave you very specific information about how to actually include that income amount, where to go in the H&R Block online software, and it gives you step-by-step guidance on doing it, right? In a historical search model, it was unlikely to find an article that was specifically written for what you wanted to ask, right? So it would have given you a generic article, and you would have read that article and say, okay, I think that's what you mean, and I would translate that and I'll apply it, right? The idea here is we found the right piece of information, but then instead of just giving you the information in its raw form as it was written by a tax attorney, it translated it into information that you as an end user can consume and then react to and use as you do your taxes.
How do you prevent hallucinations?
So one of the key things actually we did is we grounded all the responses that this is generating in content that was created internally by our tax pros and our tax attorneys. So we have the Tax Institute, which is actually a group of tax attorneys, enrolled agents, And they take all of that analysis and turn into articles. So we take all that content that they've been producing for decades for us, and we bring that in, and we're making sure that this technology, the AI tax assist, when it answers a question that you ask, it is going to ground the answer in the information that has been created by those attorneys and tax experts. So that's how we are making sure that when AI tax assist gives you an answer, it is based on information that we have vetted. We have been using more traditional AI technologies over time. Common example is you want to upload a document. We have been using AI technologies, the more sort of machine learning based technologies that your audience would be, people kind of have been using for years now. Let's say vision technology that takes the image of a document and takes the data from that image and brings it into the software so that you don't have to type everything in. So we have been baking in those kind of technologies and machine learning models over the years, and they're there in different aspects of the application right now.
We'll be back right after this.
What you're seeing today in the product was an idea not 6 months ago, right? We are always kind of looking at different ways to help the clients through the way they engage with the application, through the way they engage with our associates. They are telling us what they need, right? Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, we have to infer what they need. But we have lots of signals coming in that tell us what their needs and wants are and what their aspirations are. We're constantly looking at how can tech help. And it's not just about AI, really, right? Especially when I think about this technology, there's just tremendous opportunity, right? There's a lot we can be doing and we want to explore. We are very intentional about how to embed the technology into an experience in a meaningful way. And a meaningful way is as you see meaning and purpose in it. Sometimes as technologists, we geek out about stuff. and we have to continually challenge ourselves and look for those signals from real consumers and real users to say, do they see meaning and purpose in it? Do they see value in it? And do they trust it or are willing to trust it? Right? Because in the end, what we are doing is handling a lot of really private personal data and helping clients with something that's a very financial planning and taxes and all that. People rightly expect a lot of us in terms of privacy, trust. And we want to honor that. That's what we have built our brand on. We want to honor that. So we have to be really careful about that anything we do lives up to that promise. When you start to train this technology to truly have a conversation, we've been talking about how these are conversational agents. Large language models are about conversations, right? But actually, there's a very interesting element of conversation which we as humans take for granted. Yes, we ask questions, we answer questions, but it's interesting how the conversation continues to meander and evolve as two people talk. Like 5 minutes later, we were talking about things we weren't talking about 5 minutes ago. Somehow it just happened. That's a very interesting element of a conversation. And how do we use this technology to have a rich conversation like that? But the interesting thing is, as organic as that seems, it always has a purpose and a motivation behind it. And to think about how to give this technology that purpose and motivation to have a conversation, which is as organic as you want it to be with a human, right? But also have meaning and intention and direction to it. That's just a fascinating aspect of this technology. People ask me, like, does it understand? Frankly, I don't know. I don't know what I understand because I don't know the real meaning of understand quite right in my head. Right? I think I understand. Could be just what I believe. The other thing I would say is if you look at the last 20 years, we have trained ourselves to interact with machines in a very specific way, right? Very unnatural ways, right? Keyboards and now we suddenly say, oh, you know what? You can interact with this thing like you would interact with a human. Actually have a conversation. Right? So there is some unlearning involved of us as consumers
That's
of
true.
technology, right? We have to go back to using it like it was meant to be, probably the most human way of all, right? Have a conversation. But I think also as we relearn some of our behaviors of how to engage with the technology, we also have to question and maybe reset our expectations of the technology. If it's going to engage with us as humans, should we expect it to be more human? And what does that mean? Right? I often joke, we are very unforgiving of machines and technology. What happens when your car breaks down? You are annoyed. You're angry. What happens when someone sprains their ankle? You have empathy. You're not annoyed at somebody spraining their ankle, but you're annoyed at your car having a flat.
That's true.
Right? I think if we want this technology to be more human, we have to really, at some point in time, start to think about our engagement model with this technology. Are we going to treat it like are we going to think about it differently, engage with it differently? I think it's a fascinating evolution of our relationship with machines.
This episode was produced by me and Emma Silikans and mixed by Garrett Lang, with original music from him and Jacob Gorski. Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Strong.